Ever wonder where it all started for Digimon? What the origins of the Digital Monster Virtual Pet is? Well, I did some research and put together this exciting and informative video for you. So sit back, grab some popcorn and let the Digimon Virtual Pet History lesson begin. This video covers the origins of Digimon itself and then the virtual pet line. I will not be covering the Digivices in this video, but can do so in a different video if anyone's interested, let me know below. To start this off, we need to jump in our time machine and head back to 1996. The year of the fire rat, apparently. That's unrelated, but interesting I guess. So it was 1996, and there were two people, whose names I won't try to pronounce, but I'll show them on the screen here. Both the inventor and the creator of the now widespread Tamagotchi first had the idea to release the first Tamagotchi to the world. These guys were given an IG Nobel Prize for their creation. Anyone who's actually curious about what an IG Nobel Prize is? Well, it's essentially just a joke prize, but I'll link an article you can read about the IG Nobel Prize in the description for anyone who's actually curious about that. These two were also dubbed the father and mother of the Tamagotchi. The Tamagotchi was released by Bandai, who we all know so well for their Digimon VPets, but back then it was just Tamagotchi. Jumping in the time machine again to our next stop, June 1997, where Bandai released a device named Digimon, short for Digital Monster, in Japan, and later that year, an English release as well. This device took inspiration from the Tamagotchi, which was released a year earlier. Essentially another pixel-based pet, and they used several of the mechanics from the Tamagotchi as well in the Digital Monster. However, where the Tamagotchi was focused on raising a pet, and back then seemed more appropriate for girls, the Digimon was developed to raise and fight, with the targeting more towards boys. The first Digimon Virtual Pet looked like this. It's the very device that the Digimon 20th Anniversary Virtual Pet was modelled after, which we'll talk about toward the end of the video. This device featured a small roster of Digimon that evolved from Botamon to Koromon. Included in this evolution line were Digimon like Agumon, Greymon, and even Tyrannomon. The device itself was, in my opinion, far superior to the Tamagotchi it was born from in many ways. But most importantly, the buttons on the original Digimon Virtual Pet were a lot easier to push than the buttons on the original Tamagotchi. Later that year, in December 1997, the version 2 of the Digimon VPet was released, featuring different colours to the version 1 and a lineup of completely different digital monsters to raise and fight. This is where we first saw Digimon evolving from Punimon, like Gabumon, Elecmon, Garurumon, Angemon, and a whole heap of others. This version also had a Japanese and English release. The monsters could be used to battle the monsters on the version 1 devices and future devices that I'm about to mention. Blasting forward in our time machine again, to March 1998, Bandai were at it again with the release of the Digital Monster version 3. Releasing with both Japanese and English releases, the Digimon Digital Monster version 3 had different colours and bring us Digimon like Patamon, Unimon and a whole heap of others as well. By this point, Digimon had grown quite a lot. And in May 1998 released another variation of the device, the version 4, providing new Digimon to the mix. And then in August of 1998, Bandai released the final version of the original Digital Monster Virtual Pet, the version 5, which came in a skeleton green colour. This version 2 had a Japanese and English release, and bring us the likes of Dark Tyrannomon and Metal Tyrannomon, and a load more Digimon to go with them. The following year, on the 7th of March 1999, Digimon Adventure, the Digimon anime, was released. This is better known in English-speaking countries as Digimon Digital Monsters, and was loved by many kids all around the world, introducing us to our beloved Digital Monster pets on the screen and in colour. I'm not going to go into the anime in this video, that deserves a whole video to itself. I might look at it in the future though. Returning to the Digital Monster version 1 to 5 Virtual Pet, by 2005, 8 years since the very first Digital Monster Virtual Pet hit the shelves, more than 24 million Digital Monsters have been sold. The Digital Monster device, taking this exact form and gameplay, was not seen again in a release until 2017, with the release of the 20th anniversary, which included some slight changes and a combination of all the Digimon into one device, rather than the 5 different versions. Although some criteria needed to be met to get some of the Digimon, so you did kind of need multiple devices, but we're going to talk about this later on in this video. After the success of the 5 previously mentioned versions of the original Digital Monster VPet, and while the show was gaining traction, a new kind of Digital Monster device was conceived and released on October 24th, 1998, the Digital Monster Pendulum 1.0. Following the Nature Spirits theme, unfortunately at the time of making this video, the Pendulum devices were only ever released in Japan, no English release currently existed. Along with an upgraded and really nice looking design, the Pendulum 1.0 device brought some pretty cool features to the table. First and foremost, the Pendulum device contained a counter inside, counting how many times the device had been shaken, allowing different events to be triggered. Additionally to that, these devices were the first time we had access to the Mega Evolutionary Stage on a Digimon Virtual Pet. The Mega Stage came after the ultimate form of the Digital Monster. The feature of being able to Jawgress, or DNA Digivolve, as most of us remember from the anime, allowing Digimon to essentially fuse to Digivolve, was introduced in this device. The Pendulum 2.0 came out in December 1998. Again, only a Japanese version was released, and the Digimon this time were different to the Pendulum 1.0 version. This Pendulum release is known as the Deep Savers. In January 1999, the Pendulum 1.5 Nature Spirits device was released, essentially changing around some of the Digimon from the Pendulum 1.0, but leaving most of the features the same. In March 1999, the Pendulum 3.0 or Nightmare Soldiers was released, and in some pretty cool colours. Releasing only in a Japanese version, the Pendulum 3.0 saw a change in the Digimon lineup. Just a month later and updated to the Pendulum 2.0, the Pendulum 2.5 Deep Savers was released, changing around some of the Digimon we originally saw on the Pendulum 2.0. The fun didn't stop there though. We saw a Pendulum 4.0 released in June 1999, a Pendulum 3.5 released in October 1999, the 5.0 Metal Empire came out in September of 1999, the 4.5 in May 2000, and the 5.5 version in June 2000. And finally, to top off the Digimon Pendulum series, we saw the Pendulum Zero Virus Busters, released in March of 2000. In July 2002, a newer, upgraded Pendulum device was released. It retained the original Pendulum feature, but this time the new Digimon Pendulum Progress 1.0 Dragon Roar was a vast improvement on the older device. The sprites looked a lot better, and included some different features including the ability to fight a computer monster rather than connecting to another device, which you could still do. The Pendulum Progress 1.0 Dragon's Roar gave you the Digimon like Agumon, Vmon, Greymon, and the rest. Also included in these devices was a feature that, depending on the time of the day you trained your Digimon, would depend on what evolution you got. A pretty cool feature to add to the device. There are other factors for evolution as well, but this was a noteworthy feature I thought I'd mention. Later that year, in September 2002, the Pendulum Progress 2.0 Armageddon Army released. This version carried the same features as the 1.0, but changed the Digimon lineup to Digimon like Patamon, Impmon, Angemon, and loads more. In March 2003, the final Pendulum Progress was released, the 3.0 Animal Coliseum, which gave Gabumon, Bearmon, and Hawkmon a run on the Pendulum Progress for the first time. Throughout 2003, the Pendulum X was released in 4 versions, the 1.0, 1.5, 2.0, and 3.0. The 1.0 and 1.5 had the same Digimon, with the 2.0 and the 3.0 having different Digimon lineups. It was only released in a Japanese version, and was the first Digimon Virtual Pet to include the X Antibody Digimon. Now seen more commonly in the Digimon X Virtual Pet, released in 2021. This device changed a lot from the previous devices. It retained its VPet features, but aimed to include more RPG aspects that you would find in the Digimon Digivices, as opposed to the previous VPets. An interesting concept and definitely a VPet to check out. In 2005, we saw the addition of 4 new Digimon Virtual Pet devices to an already growing collection of Digimon Virtual Pets out there. The Digimon accel released with the following versions: Nature Genome, Evil Genome, Justice Genome, Ultimate Genome, providing different Digimon in each, including some X Antibody Digimon. In 2005, the Digimon Mini was also released, bringing us a smaller device that did not have any menus on the screen, like we see today in the 20th anniversary or the Digimon X Virtual Pets. A total of 3 Digimon Minis were released, being the 1.0 in 2005, which included Koromon, Agumon, Gabumon, and several others, the 2.0 giving us Tentomon and Kunamon, and the 3.0 giving us Patamon, Angemon, Devimon, and some others as well. In 2007, the Digimon Twin was released, providing us with a new concept for raising our little digital friends. This time there were twin packs released and specific left and right devices. By connecting a left and right device, you could watch your Digimon eat and train together. There were 2 specific versions, the L or left version having Gabumon and others, and the R or right version having Agumon. I find the Digimon Twin to be an interesting concept, and I have a video I'll link here that talks about that. After not seeing a Digimon Mini release since 2006, they made a return with the Digimon Mini Cross Wars. These devices look the same as the Digimon Mini. There were 3 versions released, all having a specific Digimon as their release and starter Digimon. On November 6, 2010, the Digimon Mini Shoutmon Red, Digimon Mini Greymon Blue, Digimon Mini Dark Knight Black, with other Digimon unlocked by defeating certain Digimon. Getting to some more modern devices now, in 2017, in Japan, and 2019 in Australia and the US, the Digimon 20th Anniversary Virtual Pet was released. This device brought a lot of nostalgia for many people, as it included all the Digimon that came on the version 1 to 5 original Digimon Virtual Pets, that we talked about right at the start of this video. Yes, you do need to connect to other devices to unlock some of the eggs, but as long as you have some friends, you technically only need 1 device. Some of the other features on the new Digimon 20th Anniversary device that differ from the original device include being able to obtain all the Digimon, as I just mentioned, as well as train 2 Digimon at once. You can actually have 2 Digimon on your screen, and you're able to train them and battle them together as well in tag battles. There was also a Battle Coliseum added, allowing you to take on loads of different Digimon, which is also useful for evolution or just bragging rights with your friends. There were loads of different colours released to the 20th Anniversary as well, making them a much loved device. Along with the Digimon 20th, they also released the Digimon Pendulum 20th in 2018. There were 2 versions, with the Digimon from the original devices being split amongst the 2 versions. You also had the option to put your Digimon in the freezer to preserve them if you're away. And Drawgrass is also available on this device. In 2019 and 2020, we saw the release of the Digimon X Virtual Pets in Japan, and later in 2021, the version 1 of these devices was released in an English version. So far, there is only an English release for the version 1, however all 3 versions are available in Japan. These devices follow the X Antibody forms of Digimon, and provide us various quests that can be taken to gather items to use on your Digimon to increase its stats or defeat it faster. Quest completion can determine specific evolution paths which are required to be unlocked. There's also a Xi system released, which is essentially a dice roll to determine the outcomes and chance of something happening. In November 2020, the Digimon Pendulum Z, or Z depending on where you're from, was released in green, blue, and red versions. These devices follow on from the original Pendulum devices, with the Nature Spirits, Deep Savers, and Nightmare Soldiers versions being released. Later in 2021, 3 more versions were released: Wind Guardians, Metal Empire, and Virus Busters. And last on our list, a device that I'm yet to get my hands on, the Digimon Vital Bracelet, a wearable device allowing you to walk with your Digimon, using the amount of steps and heart rate to interact with your Digimon. There are also DIM cards, or Digimon Identified Memory Cards, that you can insert to add things like Digimon, areas, and graphics. The history of the Digimon Virtual Pet is quite an interesting one, with many great devices. What one was your favourite, and do you still have those devices? Leave a comment below, and maybe check out this video.